What is going on, everybody? I've been a diehard Pistons fan since 2003 and starting to get cautiously optimistic about this team. The Detroit Pistons closed out their road trip last night against the Denver Nuggets, where they fell 134 to 121. In this video, we are going to go through, highlight a couple players pretty quickly, more quickly than normal, just because there wasn't too many standouts last night, but there was an overarching theme. And once we wrap through the highlighted players, that is what we are going to talk about. And then we're also going to touch on just moving forward, where we're at, coming back home, and what January is going to look like. So the first player that we do need to highlight, and the only starter we are going to highlight from last night, is going to be Jaden Ivey. He finishes the game with an extremely efficient 17 points in 21 minutes. With those 17 points, he was 7 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from the three-point line. Also had 3 boards and an assist. Pretty good game in limited minutes for Jaden Ivey. Not really sure what happened, but he did not come back into the game at all after the start of the second half. And yes, all of the starters did eventually get pulled pretty early, and we'll get to that. But he seemed to be pulled even earlier, so really hoping that there's nothing wrong with him, and that hopefully just a long road trip was catching up with him, and that's the way they decided to go about things. But all in all, in his 21 minutes, he was definitely the most impressive starter, in my opinion. So moving on, it's going to be Ron Holland. And Ron Holland had a great game for what he did. He played 20 minutes and had 12 points, 5 of 9 from the field, 1 of 1 from the three-point line. Pretty nice that his three-point percentage is slowly creeping up from awful to just bad, regular bad. He also chipped in 2 boards and, yeah, had a pretty good game. So the Pistons were down by, 25 points at the start of the fourth quarter, right around maybe like 2 minutes into the fourth quarter. And JB cleared his bench. He put in Holland, he put in Ausar, he put in Sasser, Wendell Moore, and Paul Reed. And those guys cut the lead all the way down from like 25 to 7 points at one point in time. The third string really gave us an extra chance to win this game, which was pretty insane to watch. And a lot of it had to do with Ron Holland on both ends of the floor. I think when the fourth quarter started, Ron Holland maybe didn't even score yet at that point in time. If not, he had like 2 points. So all of those 12 points he had came when the Pistons were chomping down on the Nuggets lead, cutting it down from 20 plus to 7. And a lot of that was because of Ron Holland playing both ways. I think that Ron Holland is showing a lot in his limited minutes, and things look better and better for him every game. So pretty happy with the way Ron Holland did play last night. And included in that third string bench run was Paul Reed, B-ball Paul. Have to highlight him. He played 12 minutes, had 7 points, 2 of 5 from the field. Both of those 2 field goal makes were jump shots. He did miss 2 threes, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 2 rebounds, 2 assists, but most importantly, he had 4 steals in 12 minutes. 4 steals in 12 minutes is absolutely insane. His plus minus was plus 12. That's because the bench really did nearly get us back into this game, forced the Nuggets to put their starters back in, and B-ball Paul had as much to do with that run as anybody. This dude is legitimately like one of the best players I've ever seen at blitzing guards that are primary ball handlers. Whether it's just a guard trying to get downhill and he comes over and helps and blows it up, or if he's guarding the screener, he'll just come right off the screen like he's going to switch or like they're going to trap, and he'll just rip it right off dudes. And that happens like every single game that he plays, at least once. And steals are great, but steals are really, really great when they're like that, because every single time that happens, it leads to a free 2 points on the other end, a walk-in layup or dunk. He's just so good at blitzing other teams' primary ball handlers. I have no idea how he got so good at it, but he is legitimately amazing at blitzing. Every single time that he does it, it feels like a steal. And I swear his success rate on blitzes converting to steals is like 80%, because more often than not, if you see him coming off a screen to help or switch or whatever, you can just tell he's about to blow it up, and like every time he makes that motion, it feels like it turns into 2 points on the other end. I have no idea how or why he got so good at doing that, but man, it's pretty awesome to watch. So shout out to B-ball Paul. he played an amazing game in his 12 minutes last night and was as important as anybody with that third string unit coming in and fighting us back into this game to give us a chance to win it. So will be interesting to see what happens with Paul Reed long term. Might make a separate video on that coming up soon because it is a weird situation right now with Marcus Sasser and B-Ball Paul, especially being guys that are capable of getting DNPs and not getting into games, but they're also very capable at coming into games and swinging them. So it almost feels like it's time to start having discussions about how we could potentially get him and or Sasser into the full-time rotation, because B-Ball Paul did an amazing job when Stu was out. B-Ball Paul did an amazing job last night when the bench is cleared, and he forced the Nuggets to have to put Jokic and Murray back in the game, guys that I'm sure that they would have liked to sit for the remainder of that game, but they were not able to. So all in all, was not really upset about this game one way or the other. I mean, we were 3-0 on the road trip coming into this one, and I said before the game even started, was saying all day, really won't be upset if they lose this. If they finish this road trip 3-1, that's fine by me. 3-1 on the road trip is great. I expected to finish this road trip 1-3 or 2-2 at best, so I'm really not upset with the way this went. I'm still pretty high on the Nuggets. I know that they're having more of a down year than they have over the past couple of years at 17-13 right now. But at the end of the day, they still have Jokic, they still have Murray, they still have MPJ. Those guys can really play, but especially Jokic is the best player in the world. He's averaging 2K stats and has for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. The dude is just unreal. Because what did he have last night? He just calmly had, 37 points, 9 boards, and 8 assists, and it felt like just your average Joker game. I mean, the dude's ridiculous. So I'm not mad about this game whatsoever. I just think it's really important to get home, get some rest. They haven't been back in Detroit in 10 days now, and hit the ground running in January, because the schedule is going to start looking easier than it has in a long time. I think 8 out of our first 10 games in the new year are all at home. There's a lot of games in that mix against teams like the Hornets, teams like the Magic, who will be without Paulo and both the Wagners. Teams like the Nets are coming up on the schedule. Teams like the Trailblazers are coming up on the schedule. And, I mean, as Pistons fans, we should be the first to know that it's pretty easy in this league to drop a game to a team like the Jazz and turn around and beat a team like the Lakers. But realistically, when you start to have a long stretch of home games against a lot of non-playoff teams, that is the time that you can really pick things up and start to make some headway on their record. Right now, we're sitting at 14-18, and I truly believe, as crazy as it sounds, if they continue to play the way that they have played on this West Coast trip through the remainder of January, there's a real world where they are pushing 500 or 500 by the end of the month of January. So, not at all disappointed in this game. I thought that it was not the greatest effort from the starters and the main bench role players, but the third string made this an interesting game. That's all I could really ask for. Still a successful road trip, and I'm excited to see what comes up in the new year. So let me know what you guys think, and we'll catch up soon.